Hey everyone, today is July 5th, 2020, the day after Independence Day here in the U.S. Once again, I'm up at Hobble Creek, just enjoying a nice little fire, just enjoying some time in the nature. So this has been kind of an interesting week, personally. Had some stuff go down. Personally, I'm not going to get into details, but it has caused some reflection, and I'm still in the process of reflecting on it. But it is what it is. That's one of the things that I do struggle with, is personal reflection. For the most part, I've lived my life day by day. Hey, let's make sure that my immediate needs are taken care of. I go to work to get a paycheck the next payday, etc., etc., etc. In some ways, that's actually served me quite well. It's kept me from worrying about things that I didn't need to be worried about, or that if I should have been worried about, or that would affect me, I have very little control over. Going back to Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where you have your circle of influence, circle of control. Or circle of concern, circle of control, and my understanding is that the Covey Institute has also added. So at Franklin Covey Institute now has circle of concern, circle of influence, circle of control. Just, they refined it a little bit. And that you're supposed to focus mostly on your circle of control, or your circle of influence. And things that you have little or no control of, acknowledge them, deal with them, but don't stress about them, because it doesn't matter how many nights of sleep you lose. You aren't going to be able to change it. Reminds me of a time, this is when ISIS was really big in the news. They're still there, but they're almost never in the news anymore. And they were doing horrendous things to people who didn't believe as they did. Both other Muslims who had a different philosophy, and especially to Christians. And, my wife would be reading about these. These are horrible, and they were. There is no doubt that these were horrible things being done by people who, even though they said they served their God, they didn't, at least in my opinion. And it finally got to the night, because she'd be sitting there in bed reading all these news articles about these horrible atrocities, which is probably the best word, atrocity, that these people were doing. And, it's just one of the times where I just looked at him like, yeah, it's horrible. What are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? There's nothing you can do about it. You're just losing sleep and keeping me from sleeping. And she thought about it a little bit and said, you're right. And, kind of backed off on that a little bit. So that's the good side of, the philosophy I've pretty much used to get through most of my life. The downside, because everything has a downside, there's no such thing as a straight advantage. There's a disadvantage, there's an opportunity cost to everything. Is that, just a second as I wait for the smoke to pass, is that I haven't always been as ambitious as I need to be. And I was listening to a podcast by Jack Spirko, the Survival Podcast, and it was one of his rewinds. he's on vacation right now, and so what he does is he does a short little intro section, which I'm sure he pre-recorded before he left for his vacation, and said, gave a little intro, and said, we're going back to this date, and we're going to listen to this podcast. And this particular podcast was TSP Rewind 132. If any of you are interested in going to look it up, I'll try to remember to put a link in the show descriptions. But it was on personal leadership. And he made several really good points. I think I might have to go and re-listen to that podcast again. And I'm pretty sure I listened to it when it came out. But just like any good work, if you reread it, you'll get more out of it than, or re-listen to it, re-experience it, you'll get more out of it than you've gotten in the past. And so, I've been sitting here kind of thinking about it. Not really knowing what I was going to record this vlog on. But it got me thinking about my own business, my own personal leadership, which has struggled. Going back to the downside of the way I've gotten through life is, it shows very little personal leadership. It's just, okay, get through the day, the day's got done, success. And I do want to say that, honestly, that philosophy in some ways has kept me alive. Like most people, I've had some very hard times in my life, and times where I thought this world would just be better, or at least easier for me if I wasn't in it. Nothing I took too serious, but those thoughts do occur to you. Or at least to most of the people I've ever talked to honestly about it. But going back, I've been working on my businesses kind of haphazardly. There's people around, there's a gun range down the road a little bit, so you will hear some background noise. But, I was looking at my blacksmithing business, and I think I have an opportunity to actually set up a booth and actually start selling things. Do I expect to make a ton of money? No. But it's a weekend thing. It's something I can do. It's not going to affect my primary source of income. And it's something I can do right now. The downside to having a fire while you're recording this. I'm not too sure if you guys on the camera can actually see the smoke as it comes my way, but it does occasionally. Okay, there's going to have to be a little bit of editing there. I had to change positions. The fire was actually overheating my camera, so. What I was saying is that I have this opportunity to go out and actually start selling stuff. And there is an actual opportunity where I could actually make some money. Actually doing something I love, which is blacksmithing. But there's also an opportunity cost in that it means that over the weekend, I'm going to be at this festival, or not festival, but at this location, manning a booth and selling stuff. And while I enjoy that, that also means that for those evenings, because this location is mostly open during the evenings right now, I won't be able to be at home. And then I'm going to have to spend extra time making sure I have enough stuff to sell. So, but I was thinking about it, and personal leadership, and, well, overall I'm happy at my job. It is employment, which comes with benefits and downsides. One of the downsides is, for whatever reason, I could be let go. for whatever reason, I could be furloughed, as I was earlier this year. And, well, overall, right now, I'm relatively satisfied with my life. I have a good wife, I have a good daughter, I have, we make enough money to have a good living and to have some nice things. There's always that in the back of my mind, at the end of this week, am I still going to be employed? And, well, I think the answer is yes. I don't know. I had some indications that COVID was heating up, that businesses were shutting down or being shut down. But, it was just all of a sudden one day we all got pulled into a meeting. The fact that there were going to be furloughs was announced, and I didn't even get to finish out the day. I was packing up my stuff and heading out, with a promise that I'd get hired back. But other than that, no real assurance. So, fortunately, I was hired back, and I was able to, go back to work and show my worth and all of that kind of stuff. But that kind of stuff is a danger of being employed, Now, can a business fail if you start your own business and you're your own boss? Yes, it can. But if you're honest with yourself and honest with your bookkeeping, you kind of have a much better indication that, okay, we're making this much money, we're making this much profit, and I have this much in reserve, so if something does come up, like another COVID thing, and I can't go and sell at festivals, I know I can survive X amount of days, weeks, months, years without that type of income. And that's something I actually desire, more just for the stability. Because otherwise I'd keep blacksmithing just as a hobby. There is something nice to being able to walk into the forge and say, what do I feel like making today? Okay, I'm going to spend, and I've spent several days working on this one project that I almost guaranteed won't be able to sell. It's just a tool for the shop that I'm in, for the village. And I've spent far more time on it than I'd be able to do in a production, and I've enjoyed it. But now it's like, okay, I need to go in and I need to make X amount of spoons. I need to make X amount of forks today. I need to make X amount of, keychain leaves. I need to make X amount of whatever. And, there is an aspect of work when it comes to that. Where it isn't just, I'm going to go in and I'm going to make whatever. But one of the things I've come to is realization, and I've always known this. I've always known this was a weakness in my character. But occasionally something kind of brings it back. It's like, I need to go in and just do it. I need to prioritize the stuff I don't want to get done, which is another point that Jack brought up in this podcast. Get it done. And once I hit my quota, then I can work on fanciful stuff. And just keep on working on it, keep on doing it, and accept, the downsides of it, accept the opportunity costs of it. There's a saying in the military, at least I think it's throughout the military. I know it's definitely in the Marines. And I know it just wasn't my unit because I've heard it referred to by Marines who are completely outside of my field of operations, which is called embrace the suck. Now, when you're in the military, a lot of things are going to suck, You're going to be either extremely busy, you're going to be extremely bored, you're going to be both at the same time. As an example of another type of suck, there's one time where I was out on the USS Boxer launching Harriers. It was a nice, beautiful day. I was out there in my standard uniform, my coveralls, my float coat, and my cranial, with my standard gear. Launching a jet, nice, beautiful day, nice and warm, but not hot. But anyone who's been out to sea for any amount of time knows how fast the weather can change, especially when you're on a boat that's moving. And before I could finish launching the jets that I had to launch, we had gone into a rainstorm. And it takes a while to launch birds because you got to get them prepped. Then the pilots have to come out, get seated in, do their pre-flight inspections, get fully attached and settled into their cockpit. Then they go through their other pre-flights where they do it from inside, all the checks, and you have to be out there, it's like, okay, check 1, go through the routine, check 1 good, check 2, check 3, and just kind of go on until you can eventually hand it off. And even when you hand it off, you still have to be there in case something goes wrong. So by the end of this, I was completely soaked. There wasn't an inch of me that was dry. And in the float coats we use, there's a little salt tablet. And what it's designed to do is your float coat is deflated. A float coat is essentially a type of life vest. But it's deflated so you can work easier. But if you go overboard, there's a little ripcord you can pull. A little CO2 canister will instantly inflate your vest if everything goes right. But if for whatever reason you're unconscious or can't get to the ripcord, this little salt tablet is supposed to dissolve and inflate your coat. Well, this is how much rain was going on. I was actually surprised that thing didn't go off. I half expected about halfway to 3/4 through the launch for my float coat to suddenly inflate. But that didn't happen, fortunately. But I was surprised, which is how wet I was. And in a lot of ways, that sucked. And then I had to go in, file my reports, and I actually didn't go into maintenance control. I stood outside the hatch, did everything I needed to do. Actually, I think I did go in the hatch, just a little bit. Far enough where I could do everything I needed to do, but not soak their entire floor. And when I left, some other Marine had to come up and mop up the puddle of water that had drained off of me while I was doing that. And it was a puddle. But overall, I enjoyed my time in the Marines. You just have to learn to embrace the suck. Yeah, this part's going to suck. Another part's going to be really cool. I've been to places that I never would have been if I hadn't joined the Marines. I've been to places where I've met people that I never would have met. I have experiences that I never would have had if I hadn't joined the Marines. And I need to start doing that with the rest of my life. Embracing the parts of my life that are going to suck. These opportunity costs. Because, I believe that these costs are going to pay off. That I can actually do what I want to do. So this week I'm going to go ahead and start the application process, even though I'm not fully ready. And the days at the Smith, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to start making stuff I can sell. I'm going to try and figure out how much stuff I need. And I'm just going to start making it. And yeah, you know what? Not all of it's going to be top tier quality. I am a decent smith. I am not a great smith yet. But the nice thing is the stuff that's going to sell, it's the kind of stuff, the base level stuff that's going to make me a better smith. Where I can knock out a spoon in a couple of heats. It'd be good, just needs a little bit of cleanup, and I can sell it. Right now it takes me several heats because I'm still kind of like, okay, how do I want to do this? How should I do this part? Oh, I forgot to get my dishing stump ready. Okay, let me get my dishing stump ready. Oh, it's a little too cold. Let me stick it back in the fire and wait for it to heat back up. And the more and more I get to production level, the better smith I'm going to become. And the more I'm going to be able to just knock these things out really, really quick. And I'm going to have to accept the opportunity cost that, I'm not going to be home on those weekends. I'm going to be out working again. Now, if it was just me, it'd be no big deal. But I am married, and my wife, surprisingly, actually likes spending time with me. And so I need to work out a way where I can make her feel that, she gets her time with me while I still am able to do this. And so I'd highly recommend that you go listen to that podcast and examine your life. And examining your own life is not something that's easy or necessarily pleasant. I know I haven't enjoyed a lot of my self-examinations because mostly what I see are my flaws. But to go in and say, okay, how well am I leading my own life? I can't, if I wait for someone else to lead my life, I'm never going to be happy. I'm never truly happy. And if I wait for some politician, and I don't care if it's a really good politician, that politician does not know you. They do not know your hopes or your dreams, what it is you want, what makes you happy. You can't rely on them for leadership in your own personal life. You can't rely on religious leaders for your own personal life. Even your spirituality, you need to lead yourself. You can't rely on, your boss to lead your life. He'll lead your work life. But outside of that, in most cases, your boss doesn't really care. And once again, doesn't know you well enough to be able to help you out. Yeah, get mentors, but you take what they have and you adapt it to your life. I consider Jack Spirko a mentor of mine. He's caused me to think and to do a lot of things that I wouldn't have done before. He doesn't even know my name. He doesn't know the influence he's had on my particular life. And he'll even tell you straight up, you need to do this for yourself. I can't do it for you because if you just try and follow my exact example, that's no guarantee you'll be happy because you might not be happy going the way he did. So anyways, those are my thoughts for the week. I have some editing to do, and I have some more thinking and planning to do. Alright, so once again, figure out what your dreams are. Make sure you're working towards them. Vin Dyson out.